Welcome to The Explainer. You ever wonder if there's a surefire formula for becoming a millionaire? I'm not talking about tips or tricks. I mean a mathematical guarantee. Well, self-made billionaire Grant Cardone says he has exactly that. So today, we're going to break down his four-step path, a path he insists is just pure science, not some fantasy. Let's dig in and see if the math really adds up.
So, right off the bat, Cardone makes this incredibly bold promise. I mean, listen to this. He's not saying you might become a millionaire. He's guaranteeing it. He calls it a mathematical certainty. I mean, wow, that is a huge, huge claim. So the big question is, how on earth does he back that up? Let's unpack it.
Okay, but before we jump into the formula, you might be asking yourself, who is this Grant Cardone guy anyway? And, why should we listen to him? Well, as you're about to see, his own story, going from a regular salesman to a total tycoon, that's the foundation for his entire philosophy.
Okay, so this guy, he wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Not at all. He started out as a regular car salesman, got really, really good at it, like top of his field good, and then, and this is key, he made a strategic pivot into real estate, and from there, boom, he just scaled everything up into this global empire of books, training, and multiple businesses. But here's the most important part. He doesn't see it as just his story. He believes it's a formula, a recipe that anyone can follow, and he's broken it down into 4 super clear steps.
All right, so here's the roadmap for today. We're going to walk through his 4 core steps one by one. You'll see exactly how they stack on top of each other to get you to that millionaire finish line.
Okay, let's get right into it. Step 1. And this might surprise you. It has nothing to do with working harder. It's all about doing some simple math.
Cardone is absolutely adamant about this point. He says you've got to stop just dreaming and saying, oh, I want to be rich someday. Instead, you need to treat it like a math problem that you can actually solve. That means defining the exact number you're aiming for and then mapping out all the different ways you could possibly get there. And this slide, this is where it gets really interesting, because it totally demystifies that huge goal of making $1 million. See, it shows you there isn't just one path. There are tons of them. You could, sell a 1 baht thing to 1 million people, or you could sell a 1 million baht thing to just one person. It all comes down to what you're selling and who you're selling it to.
So the big takeaway from step 1 is this. You have to get laser focused. You need to know your exact number, know your product inside and out, and, this is the big one, know your customer. I mean, trying to sell a super expensive product to the wrong crowd, that's just a recipe for disaster. You've got to match your price to the people you're trying to reach.
All right, buckle up. We're moving on to what Cardone says is easily the hardest part, but also the most critical step. This is the one that gets people talking for sure. And it's all about mastering your income with some pretty extreme discipline.
40%. This is the magic number, the absolute non-negotiable rule. Cardone's big rule is you must pay yourself 40% of every single bit of income you make, before anything else. Yeah, you heard that right. Not after bills, not after taxes. It's the very first thing you do.
Now look, Cardone gets it. He's the first to admit this sounds incredibly hard. For a lot of us, it might even sound impossible. But there's a reason he calls this a sacred account. It's because it's completely untouchable. The whole idea is that by forcing yourself to live on less, you build the discipline, and more importantly, the capital that you're going to need for the next step.
And if you look at this chart, you can see how beautifully this system scales up. So let's say you make $30,000, you stash away $12,000, and you live on the other $18,000. But then let's say your income jumps to $100,000. Bam! You're saving a massive $40,000, and you still have $60,000 to live on, which is way more than before. This is what stops that lifestyle inflation dead in its tracks, where the more you make, the more you spend. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the huge mindset shift you have to make. It's all about choosing to be low profile, high profit over high profile, low profit. Think about it. The person who looks rich, designer clothes, fancy restaurants, maxed out credit cards, they're often completely broke. Meanwhile, the person who's just living simply could literally have millions in the bank. The lesson? Focus on your bottom line, not on looking flashy.
Okay, so you've done the hard part. You've been disciplined, you've saved up a nice chunk of change in that sacred account. So, now what? Well, step 3 is where you finally put that money to work.
Cardone uses this classic old fable, the goose that laid the golden eggs. And honestly, it's the perfect metaphor for investing. Your savings, that 40% you've been stashing away, that's your goose. Your goal is to invest it in something that produces golden eggs,
which is just another way of saying passive income. The rule is simple. You can live off the eggs all you want, but you can never, ever, ever kill the goose.
Now, his actual investment advice, it's so simple it's almost funny, but the message behind it is incredibly powerful. It's all about one thing: capital preservation. In other words, protect the goose at all costs. He says you should only invest in things you truly, deeply understand. For him, that was real estate. Why? Because it minimizes the risk of losing all that money you worked so hard to save.
And that brings us to the final step, the destination. This is the whole reason you went through all that discipline, all that smart investing. This is the big payoff.
And listen, Cardone is super strict about this part. While you're building your wealth, you absolutely have to delay gratification. That means don't go out and buy a huge house. Rent instead. Don't buy that fancy new car. Keep driving your old one. Why? Because all those big-ticket items are liabilities. They're going to eat up the very capital you need to be investing. They will literally kill your goose before it even has a chance to lay eggs. So this right here is the ultimate goal. Financial freedom, in Cardone's world, isn't just a big number in your bank account, it's a state of cash flow. It's that magic moment when your golden eggs, that passive income from your investments, is more than what you spend every month to live. Once you hit that point, you're free. You don't have to work for money anymore.
All right, let's do a quick recap of the whole framework. It's a really clear progression, right? First, you do the math and figure out your target. Second, you use that tough 40% rule to build up your capital. Third, you invest that capital to create your very own golden goose. And finally, step 4, you hit financial freedom when your investments are paying for your entire lifestyle.
So there you have it. That's the framework. And the final question? It's not for me to answer. It's for you. Based on what you do, your skills, your product, your service, what does your million-baht math problem look like? That sounds like a simple question, right? But according to Grant Cardone, just sitting down and answering it, that's the very first real step you can take towards building serious wealth.